So what we what we have is Elsa Nicol from Falco, all the way from the USA, I think. I think you are in the
That's
USA
right. Yes,
now.
I'm near Boston. Yeah.
So she will talk about how Falco's platform is revolutionizing marina management through smart and sustainable solutions. So, here it is. Super.
All right.
The floor
Well,
is
I'm
yours.
ready to dive in. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. Yes, I am based in Boston now for a few months. I'm CEO and founder of Falco, and Falco is a French company. We founded Falco in 2019 and opened the Boston office in 2021. And we created Falco to bring more digital and connected technology to the marina industry. It is a marina that is very much working, an industry that's very much working in an artisanal way. Things are being done by hand with a lot of pen and paper. But things are changing, and of course there's new generations of boaters. There's also just the tools that are available, the technologies that are available and used broadly in different industries that haven't really permeated this space yet. Of course, there are some software solutions, there are some digital apps. If you guys or some of you are boaters, you maybe use an app to book your slip in a marina, or things like that have started to come into this space and have really accelerated. And of course, sustainability is one of the big factors for the necessity to utilize those tools in a way to optimize operations for marinas, and also to help elevate the customer experience while preserving this as a space of liberty. People go boating to experience freedom, and we're not trying to track them all along, but just to make the processes smoother. As a company, what we've developed, and I will of course go into our our solutions, and more specifically I'm going to talk about one of our solutions which has to do with managing shore power, and which could very well find its applications outside of the marina space. Before that, just a couple words on the company itself and on the team. So we have developed an end-to-end IoT solution with digital tools. And one specificity of our team is that we have the end-to-end expertise from designing sensors to operating them together as a network, collecting and analyzing the data, and then utilizing the data through different workflows with user interfaces for the different persona around the marina. And then we do our own deployments. So when we need to install some physical sensors in the marina, we do that ourselves. And we also take care of monitoring and assuring customer support for the life of our product. And then we have part of our team, the major part of our team is in France, with our head of sales who is there, and I'm here in the US. So that's a little bit about the team. So we've deployed our solutions in 40 marinas, most of them in Europe. We do have 2 deployments in Greece. I will give a little highlight on that. And we started also expanding in North America. So it's about 2,000 sensors installed, about 10,000 users, and we're addressing this, it's quite a specific vertical, the marina space, but there are about 16,000 marinas just in Europe and in North America. And actually, it's a bit more than that if I include all of Canada as well. And we started this company with a specific wireless technology that has enabled us to address several use cases that are relevant for marinas over all of these geographies. So that's what we set out to do. So just before I zoom in on the shore power management that we're going to talk about today, just a broad view of the platform that we've developed. And I will also touch a little bit on the technology that is enabling all of that. So the one we're going to talk about here is the current sensor. I do have one here though, so I'll be able to show you a little bit. But we've also developed a slip occupancy sensor, and that is actually the one that is being used in Lefkada and Nidri in Greece. So this deployment in Greece is not about electricity monitoring, but I will still touch on it a little bit. So the goal here is just to do some smart parking. Marinas are a lot more than a parking for boats. Every person in the industry will tell you that, but they are fundamentally, initially, a parking for boat. So knowing in real time if a slip is occupied by a boat or if it's empty, it's just helping, management of those slips being a lot more fluid. We've also developed some sensors for boat monitoring, and that is developed as a marina service, so that people who have their boat in a certain marina can have some insights into their battery level, about the safety of their boat, things like that. And then we're working, and actually we're part of a consortium with a Horizon Europe research program as well on embedded AI, and working on a connected buoy for underwater noise monitoring with some sensors. And all of these devices, and it's basically we utilize the technology that is underneath all that, and we can develop more use cases. But basically these sensors are collecting data, and from that data we're enabling different workflows that will have, make it easy for the data to flow and for the interactions between the marina professionals, who are of course in the marina office, and that's why they have a dashboard. I will show you some of those specifically for the energy monitoring aspect. There's an app for the people working on the docks to be able also to utilize that data and participate in the workflow, and an app for the boaters so that they can also be involved in some of those processes. So I will illustrate that a little bit with the current monitoring aspect. So that's the one we're going to focus on. Just a word on the technology before I dive into customer deployments and use cases. The reason we were able to deploy this platform and develop this platform is we are a spin-off of a research center in RIA in France, and they're specialists of new technologies, and in particular our relationship is with a wireless technology team. So what we're doing with Falco is we're using, and specifically what is enabling us for the energy monitoring capability is we're using a very low power mesh communication technology. So it was developed by this team at INRIA for various industrial applications. They use it for environmental monitoring. They use it for industries, for some smart city use cases as well. And there's entire oil refineries operating with these wireless devices. So this technology was developed to be, of course, 100% wireless. So every device is battery operated, but very, very, very low power consumption. So these devices can live 3, 5, some of them 10 years on a battery. And this goes hand in hand with all like 99.99. So it's 5.9 reliability. It's never 100%. Scientists will never tell you it's 100%. Because of the mesh architecture and because of different protocol mechanisms that are built into the network that ensure that reliability comes first. There's always a trade-off between reliability, latency, and all of these in wireless technologies. Here, reliability was prioritized. And there's also built-in security, data security. So this technology, we basically took, not off the shelf, but pretty much, already working, and used it in our Marina platform. As I said, the technology, we've actually done some use cases on ships defense or offshore service ships. So lots of mechanical and lots of metallic components inside the ship, and we were able to build very strong wireless networks within that very challenging environment in ports, of course. So there's, as we talk through specific Marina use cases, the same pretty much applies in any kind of rugged, highly constrained industrial environment, which a Marina, you wouldn't say that's an industrial environment, but as far as wireless radio communication is concerned, it is a very hard environment to achieve. All right, now let's go into our subject, which is energy monitoring. I'm going to start with the chart on the right. So this is an excerpt from a study that was done in surveying a number of marinas in the south of France. There's some very large marinas there. I mean, the biggest is like 5,000 slips, but it's between 1,000 and 5,000 basically. This particular chart was done over 7 large marinas in the south of France, but we've also monitored and collected, other samples from other marinas. And what we see is that as far as how much energy a marina is consuming, the vast majority of it is from fuel, certainly. However, there's still a good quarter of it that comes from electricity, and only 2% of that comes from the buildings. So when we look at a marina, marinas will have their electricity bills. There are, in the name of sustainability, several projects for making the buildings better insulated, or, so there's always things that can be improved in the buildings, but definitely the docks and the boats that are docked there are the vast majority of the electricity consumption in a marina. When we measure what each boat consumes, and that's what our technology enables us to do in an easy way, which most marinas don't actually have that information. But what we observe, and marina professionals will tell you they kind of had an in, like they kind of knew that's how it would come out, but the data tells us it's between 20, or usually 20-30% of the boats consume 70 to 80% of the marina's electricity. And this just comes down to, of course, boat size, but it's also more about usage. I mean, in certain boats, you have people who are only using shore power for what it was intended for, which is recharge your batteries and go on onto the sea. But a lot of boats, some people are living in their boats. Some people now have heating in their boat, and they're going to leave the heating on all winter because they're worried about humidity and the impact on their boat. You're going to have people with AC, people who rent their boat out as a cabin in the summer. So there's lots of different usage and a lot more equipment inside the boats than there was when initially those marinas designed their shore power distribution. And, a lot of marinas are entirely blind to that. They don't actually know how much energy is being consumed. And the cost of energy for most boaters is included in their slip. So you have a slip, you have a plug you can connect to, and usually that's it. You don't know how much you're spending in electricity. So a lot of marinas, and I want to say 2022, 2023, when the cost of energy went high in Europe, for all the factors that we remember, some marinas, and I'm talking about the French marinas because I kind of had those conversations and I really remember them vividly, entirely lost all of their margins that year because of electricity consumption and electricity costs riding high, with no way to actually know, where that electricity went, and to recover some of those costs. But beyond recovering those costs, a lot of marinas, they are also engaged in a sustainability practices. They want to make sure that they help the boaters take stock of how much electricity is being wasted, honestly, because a boat is like, there's no insulation in there. It's not built for that. So you start putting the heating on and you're heating the ocean, right? So it's really about making sure that we have the data so that the boaters can be educated to how much energy is being wasted, and the marinas can have some control over that. So what we've been working on then is, as part of our different devices, is actually, sorry, I should have it on my desk, but that's what it looks like. So it's very simple, but it's just a simple box. And in there, there's a PCB that has a communicating chip, and then a chip that will collect the data, which is these clips. When they're clipped around a cable, they're going to tell you how much current is going through. So that's how simple it is. So the technology to communicate that data wirelessly through the Marina is not simple, but the device to collect the data is super simple. And so what we are doing is, in marinas, like there's a map here of a 600 plus slips marina. In about a week, with 2 people, we're able to equip all of the pedestals of the marina with one of those devices and start getting in real time how much electricity is going through to each boat. And, back to the chart I was showing you earlier, maybe I will go back up. This is the individual consumption of every single boat. So we don't actually need to, and some marinas have done that and are doing that, stripping all of their pedestals, distributing electricity, and putting new pedestals that, cost them 800, or actually some of them are upwards of 3,000 euros, to have smart pedestals so that they have the data and they can shut power remotely. You don't actually need to shut power remotely. First thing is about knowing how much current is going through. And because we know only very few of those boats actually consume a lot, and everybody else is just recharging batteries now and again, or not using any energy at all, it's just about then communicating with those boaters who are involved in weighing in on the consumption. So these deployments, then we've done a few of them, and the output, and I have the live tool that I can share with you if you want to dive in further, but basically the output is a time map that tells you on the map and here as a aggregated data how much energy is being consumed on every single time. So we've done a number of deployments. This one is in Vancouver, Canada. The way that they're using this data is just straight up invoicing. So they're collecting the data, they're converting that into quarterly bills, and then that's one way of incentivizing the boaters to be more mindful of how much energy they're consuming. Here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, this is our latest deployment. They just want to know. So at this stage, it's just collecting insights because they're blind. They have no idea. What they see is their electricity bill going up. They don't know who it is. They don't know why. They don't know when. So we're just collecting data, and then they're going to adjust the strategy on how they're going to use that data. I did want to have a little bit of the Greece deployment, illustration. This, as I mentioned, is an occupancy monitoring, not an energy monitoring. But our partner Samiot, who is a Greek tool for boaters and marinas, is testing currently our energy monitoring devices also with some of their customers in Greece. This is the deployment that is the largest. So it's the south of France. It's about 800 slips. 500 of them are in this large area that we see, and then there's about 300 in canals. So they've had energy monitoring capability now for the last 4 years. And what we're doing with them is we're evolving our user interfaces to help involve the boaters in promoting more sustainable ways. So what that means is that, I'm going to give you an example. So this is the map that they have. I actually do have the live map here. So on this map, the boaters, the marina can see in real time how much energy is being consumed on every single slip. And what we've done is we're highlighting, just give it a minute to load. This is the joys of live demo. But you'll see that what we're doing is we're cross-referencing the data that's coming from the sensors with the data that's in the software that manages the contracts for the marina. So what we're doing is we're alerting the marina anytime we see a consumption that is not associated with a specific contract. So for example, here we have several plugs. So the white ones are consuming electricity. This red one is consuming electricity and there's no boat there. So either somebody's using two plugs or somebody's just using shore power for their own use, but they're not, or there's a boat that pulled in, but they don't have a contract. They're just stealing electricity, whatever it is. So what we're doing is we're putting some controls in so that not only the marina will get the data, be able to charge their customers if they want to, or to just show their customers. And this is this particular here that I wanted to show you. Actually, I have the prototype here. It's in French, I apologize, but it's pretty straightforward. So we're showing the boaters have an app in their marina where they can have, you know, the Wi-Fi codes and the news and events of the marina and all that. They can pay their contracts. We're showing them how much electricity they're consuming, both in real time and also how, you know, how they're doing compared to a 400 kilowatt hour allocation for the year. So they can keep track of how much they're consuming. This is how much is being consumed right now. And there's a little guide there where we're helping them understand how much the equipment they have on board is consuming. So the marina has written, actually it's the whole association of marinas locally, have written a guide to help boaters be more mindful and smarter, basically, in how they use electricity. Then there's the history, of course, in kilowatt hour and in euros, and then there's contact. And one thing that I mentioned earlier is if you're going to leave your boat, and in a lot of marinas, you know, some of the professionals were telling us, well, it's nice to have the electricity in real time, but there's nothing that guarantees that it's the right boat using the right plug. So if the boaters are concerned about that, what we've done is implemented this like lock. It's a digital lock, but it means that if I'm leaving my boat for 3 weeks in the marina, I'm not going to use any power. If somebody uses my power, I want the marina to be able to know that. So I'm going to lock my plug digitally, and then that plug is going to appear as a red one because I've said that's not me. So if somebody's using power there, that's not me. So without the need for a costly pedestal that lets you remotely shut power off and then, you know, pay with a card, or all of these things that have existed because it's the only way really to prevent people for abusing the electricity that's being freely distributed right now. Just having the data and having the right digital tools makes it possible to have, you know, to reach the goal, which is just not overspend and not ridiculously waste energy in the marina. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I think as a conclusion, and I will open up to questions. I think you said, Sonia, the questions will be at the end, but basically the idea with this particular use case is we started with an enabling technology. I mean, we didn't start the company with the technology, but we started the company with a state, you know, an observation that the marina industry is lacking some of those like smart little tools. The technology was there with one of our partners, and it enables us to really easily deploy some very simple hardware that's been out there now for several years in the hundreds or thousands actually. It's very cost efficient because the hardware is easy, the deployment is easy, there's no cables, so it's like lightweight work as well. The configuration is very simple and flexible. If you say, well, this part of the port or the marina or the building or whatever it is you want to monitor, you know, we need to have a closer look at that for 3 months or for a period of a year so we can collect the data. Very easy to do. It's all wireless. It's easy. And then that means that several use cases in our industry, but in different industries, can also benefit from an easy tool like that. It's all about the data. Once you have the data, you know, it's, you know, it helps make the right decisions. And then the digital tools on top of that, as we saw, you know, we're just measuring electricity. That's it. But still, with the right tools, we can exercise the right digital controls to, you know, to deliver the benefits. That's it for me.
Thank you, Elsa. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.